Hey everybody, Mr. Kaminsky here, and this video is to help you guys kind of understand functions and features of Soundtrap. So it's kind of like a little crash course that's going to be in a way to help you guys experiment with what's going on with this program. So this is the program that we're going to be using. It's kind of like GarageBand or Logic. However, it's completely cloud-based, and you guys can access this on your Chromebooks. You can access it anywhere else as well, but the idea is that you guys can do this work from your Chromebook if you're working with stuff from school. What I think would be smart for you guys to do at this point is to have this video open up in one tab, and then in another tab, open up Soundtrap, and you will be able to experiment with this track as I'm doing that. And that way, this will allow you to maybe learn by doing and messing around with something that is created for you, and you don't have to come up with something from scratch. And then you can do exactly what I'm doing. So maybe you'll pause the video and then mess around with something that I just did, and then you can resume the video and go from there. So right now, we're just going to go over some of the obvious things here in Soundtrap. And the first thing you're going to see, just like in any program, you're going to have up here File, Edit, Settings, and then Tutorials. So if you guys have any questions, they have a bunch of tutorials for Soundtrap, and you could click on this and go through the community, keyboard shortcuts, or video tutorials. There is a undo button, a redo button, and save. And this is an important one. There is an autosave feature for Soundtrap. However, my suggestion to you would be to always make sure you're saving, because if your Chromebook dies, your computer dies and runs out of battery, and you didn't save, you will have lost a lot of work, and that's not ideal. This button here lets you load up previous versions of the track. So if that's something that you would want to do, you could do that. You could also download this entire mix as an MP3 or a WAV file. So I just clicked on that, and you can see this pop up, and it gives me ideas and examples to do that. You could name this something else if you wanted, something super creative or something really boring. That's totally up to you, but we don't have to do that because this is a shared file. As we're going over here, you can see there's these buttons here, Snap to Grid, which we'll go over later. There's a grid settings button, and then right here, you don't even need to worry about that. That's like an undo or redo. But here's an important one. This is a collaboration, piece, and what you can do is add people to this. Just know that just like any Google Doc or anything that you do, when you add them, you're trusting them with this, and they will now have editing privileges. So just know that if you do share this with somebody, they can make changes to your project. So don't share something with somebody that you don't trust, and then you are comfortable with them making changes to your project. All right, so we're going to go down here. The master volume is right here, so you can change the volume to the entire thing right there. The timestamp, record, stop, rewind, play, fast forward. These things here are the key, which we will go over later, tempo and metronome, which we will also go over all of that stuff a little later. Okay, so now we are going to kind of get into some of the nitty-gritty stuffs here. So on the left, you can see over here, you have all of these tracks, okay? And they're all something different. And there's a lot of stuff going on there. But when I'm talking about this, there are two types of tracks that you guys can see. There are audio files. So if you looked at this one here, you can see this is a wave form. Here's the same thing, and here's the same thing. That is something that is recorded. So you cannot change that. You can add effects to it. You could change the volume, but you cannot edit it. There's also these guys here. You see more dots. These are called MIDI tracks or MIDI files. Dots are lines, and what those dots or lines are, those are data. You can edit that because that's just something that you have typed in yourself. It's called musical instrument digital interface. And all that is that it's a code that tells the computer what to do with that digital instrument. So So that is that. Those are the two different types of tracks there. Up here, you see this gray bar. What this does is allows you to loop a section. You can change the length of that, just like that, if you wanted to follow, or like work on like a small section of this. So let's give this thing a listen and see what it sounds like. All right. So as this thing is going through, you can see up here, this thing is the cursor, and that tells you where you are within the piece of music. All right. And if you wanted to start or stop, you could come down here. But also an easy feature of this is spacebar. Spacebar is like a hot button for you that starts and stops. Okay. Now we're going to take a step back here, and we're gonna zoom in here. So if you go down to the bottom right, there's these two buttons here, and that allows you to zoom in and zoom out. We're going to zoom in, and you're going to see numbers up here. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, so on, so on. These are called, these numbers are for the measures. Okay, so this entire piece in music in general is divided up into measures. And now you can also see here there are tick marks. So 1, and then 2, 3, and then you're into the next measure. Each measure has 4 beats, at least in this example, each one has 4 beats. Okay, and the music is divided up into beats within the measures. So you have measure 1, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4, measure 2, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4, and so on throughout the piece. You'll also notice that in this Soundtrap will allow you to do an infinite number of measures. You can go on for as long as you like. Just know that you might not want to do that because we won't listen to the whole thing. All right. So now as we're going through this, you can see over here on all of these tracks, there are a bunch of these buttons. Okay. And we're going to adjust this volume a little bit. And these buttons do certain things for you. This allows you to record, enable or record. Okay, so you can click that and then record stuff in. This is your volume. Allows you to make each track louder or softer. All right. This button here is to solo it, which means you only want to hear that single instrument. Okay. And then you could solo as many tracks as you want. You can hear them all. If you want to hear just something specific, or you just bring them all back in. All right. Cool. Awesome. So there's another piece of this. If you wanted to mute a track, you could do that. So we'll turn this back up again so you can hear. All right. And I can mute that track. I can mute these 2 tracks. All right. It's just an easy way to do that. This thing here is called automations. Okay, so let's go down here to 2 synths. All right, and automation, what this does is it gives you some options here. You can pan, sweep, volume. All right, so let's look at the volume piece. And you might want this track to be a certain volume at one point of the track, but then you might want it to be a certain volume at the other point. So maybe in the beginning, you want it to be softer, but maybe in the middle, you want it to be louder. Well, what you can't do is come in here and adjust this up and down and change this setting. So the idea is that we use this automation tool, and that allows us to adjust the settings in the track without having to do this. And then it allows us to save it. So anytime you click on a spot, it has a marker, and then we can adjust that marker and bring that up or bring that down. And that allows us to change how loud we want this track to be. All right. So if I wanted to do that, we're just going to hit undo here and get rid of all those changes. All right. And let's go into the beginning here, and we're just going to do a little bit of automation. All right. So we'll put a marker there. Let's start it louder. Put a marker here, then one here. I'm just kind of messing around here really quick. We're going to make it go softer, and then we're going to have it come back and go louder. So let's hear what that sounds like. that is the idea there. Now just know that if you were to exit out or like get rid of an automation, once it's gone, it's gone. All right, so if you're going to get rid of that, it's going to be deleted forever, and then you have to go in and make those changes again. But I did want to delete that because, to be honest, I didn't want that there. All right, so we're kind of cruising along here, and I hope that you're at least able to kind of figure some stuff out. Now, one of the nice things, and this is going to be something that you will want to do when you're making something, these 3 buttons over here, I haven't talked about those yet, but if you click on that, that gives you options for this track. So I could rename any of these tracks. I could duplicate it, get rid of it. Don't worry about this one. All right, you don't need that. We're going to talk about importing MIDI files later. You could export just this track as an audio file or any of these options. We don't have note flight, so you're not going to have to worry about that. But you could export this as an audio file. You could export the entire track up here as an MP3 or WAV file. So there are tons of options there. But one of the coolest parts about this is color coding. And what that does is helps you really organize everything. And if you look at this track, it might look like it's kind of like a giant mess here. But it really isn't. And a lot of these things are very similar. So if we were to play this again, let's start here at measure 5. All right, and we're going to solo these tracks. And then we're also going to add this guy in here. And if you notice, like these first 5 are actually all parts of the drum beat. They're all different tracks, but every single one of them has something to do with the drum beat. Okay, so what we could do is, since they're all related, we could change the colors. All right, so we could just make them all, let's make them all blue here. I like blue. It's a nice color. If you don't like blue, I'm sorry. Not sorry, actually, but it's cool. So we're going to keep changing these. And now what we're doing is this is going to make this a lot easier to identify. All right, so let's go back. We have not changed sounds, but all we have done is change the color. So now we are able to identify what is part of the drum beat. Okay, so we're going to unsolo these. All right, now the next piece, so we have this 2 synth and marimba. So let's listen to these. All right, same exact part. However, it's 2 different sounds. Okay, so what we can do, that's not the button I wanted. Let's change them to purple. See if that's not the same color. I'll work on my colors later. Okay, so now those 2 are organized into the same color, and it's easy to identify that. Okay, I did forget to mention a couple other things here. With this being MIDI, okay, you could click here, double click, rename tracks. This over here gives you the option to, record something in and play something different because it's MIDI. If I wanted to do that, I'll click out of that here really quick. If I wanted to do that here, you can notice that there's no option to do that because it's been recorded in. I could add an effect, and these are all the effects that I could add, but I cannot change it. Okay, so let's go to this 2 synth part, and we're going to hit play. And let's solo this. So here, you're going to notice that this is the instrument, and I can change the sound and do anything like that. And you could experiment what that would sound like with everything, but let's get back to what this is. So let's unsolo that. You can just tell that all these options are here. So that is one thing that you can mess around with, and that's really cool about a MIDI file. Just know that you can't do that with audio. So now let's focus down here. And we're going to solo this part, but you might be wondering what this whole thing is. And the options in here, this is an effects, but you can see that there is a fade in and a fade out. This is somewhat similar to the automation, but you don't have to go in and adjust the volume. There's ways to fade in. So I could change this and bring that back, bring that forward. You can see that. And the idea is that it starts soft and then gets louder. Let's solo that. You can hear it getting louder now. All right, now it's full volume for the track. You could also, if you wanted, you could have it get louder and then softer. That's an option too. All right, but if you like that, that's cool. If you wanted to mess around with that, you could totally do that. And you could do that on any track. It doesn't just have to be that. You could go up to this 2 synth part, hit edit. We could do a fade in, and it gives you like a specified length, but you just drag it, and it would sound like this. I guess we should go here, huh? And then it brings it in, okay? We are not going to do that. All right, so just hit undo a couple times, and now you're back to what it was. So look down here. We're almost done here with this crash course, so thanks for staying with me on this. You can notice that you can select any track, but now let's get down here. You can add a new track. So if we click that add new track, here's all the options that you have. So if you wanted to sing into this, use your voice, do a microphone, do a podcast, whatever you wanted to do, this would be the option that you would choose. And what it would do is add a new track. It's called Mic. You could rename it if you wanted. You could call it Vocal 1. You could call it My Amazing Voice. You could say whatever your little heart desires. So we're just going to leave it at that. Now, if you don't want that and you messed up or you don't like it, you just hit those 3 dots, delete track, and it is gone. Okay. So the other piece is if you wanted to add a new track and you play guitar or bass, and you wanted to like record in, if you have like an interface, or like a preamp that you're able to plug in and bring it into Soundtrap, you could do it through this and then record into your computer. So that is also another option that you have. All right. So those are all options. The other thing that is up here, if you see these 2 music notes, if you hit that, that's where all of the loops are. All right. And the thing that I want to point out right now is that all of these loops, you can just drag and drop like anything into this piece. Okay. So let's try that. We're going to hit play here. All right. And let's say you wanted another piece, just another drum piece of this. All right, let's say we dropped it here. And you can hear it there. We'll turn up the volume a little bit. All right, so that obviously fits the drum thing, that fits. So, however, if you wanted to, we'll delete that out of there, delete track. We don't want it anymore. If you wanted a piano sound, maybe you want to type in piano. And you see what comes up. These are options. Okay. Now the one thing that I would caution you on is we're going to come down to this bottom here. You can see A and then a small M. Okay. What that's telling you is it's A minor. Minor sounds more sad. Major would be a big M, and that would sound more happy or consonant, if you will. So if you're looking for loops and you know that you want it to fit, all right, you're going to pick minor scale. And now all of these options will fit with a minor scale. So let's say we go to, let's just pick a random one here. All right, I like that one. That sounds great. And we're going to put it right here. Okay, so let's go back and we're going to see what that, let's hear what it sounds like on its own. All right, now with the whole thing. So you can kind of see that you can really like drag and drop and start composing stuff on your own with very limited like music theory knowledge, which is actually a lot of fun. And that helps you be successful right away. And as we get further into this class, we'll talk to you about how to compose stuff on your own. Okay. Lastly, as you're going through this, please do not save this track. This is shared, and this is just meant to be something for you to mess around with. So when you're done messing around with this, what you can do is you can go up here to Exit Studio. Okay, and you'll exit. It says, do you wish to save changes? No, do not save the changes. All right, and it brings you here. Okay, now I'm going to go to My Projects and enter Studio. And if you want to mess around on your own or find a different project that you can mess around with, you're going to get to this spot and it's going to go up to Demos up here. And you have these 6 options of pre-made tracks, and you can select one of them. It'll load it up. And you are then able to mess around, go anywhere, and then you can change anything, solo a track, and just and have a little fun and mess around with this. All right. Now, if you wanted to create something on your own, you could do that, and you're going to get to Studio, click on Music, and now you have a blank canvas here. And you can create anything that you want. You could go to Browse Loops, add a new track. You could import a file. You could go to Loops up here and just start dropping stuff in. So you could drop this in. This is completely random, by the way, so I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to compose something super cool. But let's see what we can come up with here. All right, so let's find a piano. All right. Let's see what happens. All right, completely random. We'll throw that together. All right, now let's find the bass. You can kind of see how we can move through this pretty quickly. All right, and then if you wanted a guitar, maybe you find a guitar. All right, and we're gonna find this one. And all of a sudden, we have something, and I literally put no thought into that at all. And if I were composing something or trying to put something together, I'd obviously put more thought, but just so you know that it's very easy to mess around with this. So with that being said, please have a good time messing around with this program, and thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later.